Hello, hello, Julie Bartkus here. I'm incredibly excited to bring you this first episode of our Leading Workplace Happiness podcast. I have been transforming workplaces for well over 20 years and studying performance and productivity for 30. And I'm always looking and fascinated by people, especially in this day and age, who are able to attract, hire, retain a happy team and be happy in the process themselves. So today I'm incredibly excited to bring to you my first guest, Peter Schopen, and you're going to find out why I think he is such a fascinating man and he doesn't even know yet why really I invited him to be here. Peter, welcome to Leading Workplace Happiness.
Thank you for having me. Utterly humbled that I'm your first ever guest. So hopefully we'll kick it off with a big bang today.
Oh, I think we will. And I want to tell you that I've been following you. We're connected on Facebook, but I was following you for a while because you did one thing that I often teach to my students, the people who I coach and consult. I said, this is what you got to be doing. And I saw one of your posts in a Facebook group looking for employees. And I was like,
Mm.
yes, this is brilliant. And you just didn't make a post like, oh, here's my flyer. You actually put some heart and soul behind what you were posting in the groups. And it fascinated me. And I started stalking you. I started looking at everything you were posting and going, yeah, this guy's got it. So, Peter, your company, and I know you recently sold, but was Schopen Pest Solutions.
Mm.
And you've recently retired, and now you're speaking and you're coaching and you're transforming workplace cultures, probably around the globe, with the work that you do. So, I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Thank you so much. And ironically, it is around the globe. I My very first consulting gig I got was in the Bahamas.
Oh,
A
wow.
couple of pest control brothers down there hired me to come down and help them with their culture. They felt like they weren't having really good culture with their employees. They had a high turnover rate, and so that was the very first job I got post selling my company was going down there and helping them. So that was a lot of fun. By the way, I do have a restraining order here against you. So so
You
stop
noticed, you
stalking.
caught me. I know, I think I reached out with you to you with a message a while ago, and I'm like, all right. And one of the posts that pulled me in, and I copied this one. So, I'm like, and I hope you're teaching this to people because it's incredibly powerful, is you put a post of all the pictures of your staff on a wall, and you had the bottom row with a few empty slots. And you said, here's the dynamic, amazing team that I've built. And I'm just, these are pseudo word, I don't remember the exact verbatim words, but this is my amazing team that I built up. I've got a few positions left. Who's going to help me fill this bottom row? And I thought that was absolutely fascinating to make a post like that. And you did it in a community group, which is something I'm always talking about. Get into those community groups and let people know who you are. And you did that brilliantly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very nice of you to say. I One of the things I consult with I work with a lot of companies that are in the 10 to 20 person range. And I'm trying to help them get to that next level, to the multi-million dollar level. And one of the questions they always ask me is, we don't know how to find employees in this day and age. And so one of the things I always did and had a lot of fun with was going on Facebook and posting in local markets that we were looking for help. But what I always hated with when other companies would do that was, hey, we're paying $18 an hour. You got to have a good driving record. You got to be 6'2", eyes of blue. If you don't, we're not going to hire you. And I always hated that. So what
Yeah.
I did instead was I wanted to show us at a company picnic. I wanted to show us
Oh, yes, the picnic photos. Those are good.
yeah, they're so much fun. I wanted to show us doing a bed bug job, actually us out doing a bed bug job. I just wanted to say, hey, this job's fun, right?
Yes.
Outside of Dr. Pimple Popper, there aren't too many jobs that are as cool as pest control. And so I wanted to really show people that this is what it's all about. Yeah, of course, I would put in there how much we were offering, but I also put in there all the benefits, the PTOs, the paid holidays. You can move up in our company. I wanted them to know that this wasn't a stagnant job. This was a fun job with lots of inertia. And so
Yeah.
those are some of the things I teach people I consult.
And this is really cool because you're calling pest control a fun job, exciting, whatever.
And I believe it.
I'm like, ooh. But regardless of what industry you're in, that's one of the first things you have to project is your passion for what it is that you're doing. So I work with a lot of folks in the childcare industry and other heartfelt industries, but you've got to believe in what you're doing so passionately that you put it out there and others start believing in it too, because you believe in it. And that's what your post clearly communicated was your passion.
Thank you. And you can take, and I don't want to call it, no job should be boring. And I just want to be careful when I say that. But you can take, let's say, a job that's not as thrilling as killing cockroaches, and something like a pipe fitter. Let's just see the pipe fitter. It's the people around you you're working with. It's the culture that you're building as a manager, as a leader, right? Because managers and leaders are two different things. But as a leader in a company, it's how you make people feel on a day-to-day basis. Are you asking how they're doing? Are you giving them a bunch of attaboys? Are you guys having group functions where you guys kind of get together and do fun things? That's what builds up the company culture in a company. It's not the owner of the company standing at the water cooler and telling a bunch of dirty jokes or handing out lots of bonuses when it's Christmas time. That's not the culture. The culture is your interaction with your employees. And once again, I think it's really important when you're hiring, not only that you're posting those type of pictures or those type of comments, but also when you're interviewing, that you're saying, hey, listen, this is the type of culture we have here at Schopen. I'm going to tell you, or whatever company it is, and this is how we built this culture, and we think you'd be a good part of it.
Yeah. And how effective do you think any of those things would be if the passion piece was missing? So if you weren't communicating the vision, if you
Right.
weren't communicating your passion, how effective do you think those other things would be in terms of building that company culture?
I think passion goes a long way. One of our core values at Schopen Pest Solutions was passion. That was one of our core values. Another
Mm.
core value was enthusiasm, right? Don't you hate it, Julie, when you walk into a room and everybody's eager beavers, they're all excited, and you get that one person that's sitting there, can't sit through this. It just sucks the energy out of the room, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things we taught at Chopin was have passion for what you're doing, really become involved, learn pest control, learn daycare, learn how to be a plumber, learn how to be an electrician. Don't go through the motions, really learn it,
Learn
right?
and fall in love with it.
Yeah.
There's things to love about everything if you get in there and just let yourself. And I think as an owner too, when you're feeling that love and you're feeling that passion, that inspires other people to feel it too. And I don't know if people can feel it as much if they're leaders not feeling it.
Right. No one will put the blood, the sweat, the tears into a company the way the owner does, right? So if
Yeah.
the owner is at the top and he's like a fuddy-dud or she's a boring person, let's say just no passion, no enthusiasm, well, then how can your people underneath you have any kind of enthusiasm when it's already they're waking up every day coming to work knowing that they're not the ones getting the giant paychecks or they're, you got to give them a little bit something to chew on, and the only way you can do that is by showing them how much you love what you do.
Mm, that's so incredibly powerful. So let me ask you, we started out by talking about these posts you were making on Facebook. Were they effective? Did they bring you your staff?
I would say every year, yes, except for 2021. 2021 was the year of the great, um, it was not a recession, but people were just leaving their jobs in droves, unfortunately, after COVID. That year was a little tough. That was the first time I ever did an outside source. Where I actually had to go to Indeed and places like that, kind of seeking some people. But even then, as you're interviewing these people, you're still telling them about your culture. That never changes. You're giving them examples of your culture at your company and stuff. But otherwise, yes, every single year it worked out fantastic. At Chopin Pest Solutions, we had 50 employees when I finally sold. And of the 50 employees, 48 of them worked within a 10-mile radius of the office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were very much a local yokel company. That's what I preferred. Yep.
And that was two locations, correct?
we were servicing Wisconsin and Illinois. We had two locations, but really
Housed under one.
one was more like a white collar and the other was blue collar. So we had our billing department, we had our sales team in one office, we had our technicians, our CSRs in another office. Yeah. But we did service Wisconsin and Illinois. So we hit everywhere from Milwaukee down to Chicago.
All right, good, good. So you started in your garage in 2006. I
Yep.
want to know why. So I know if passion is really the root of motivating our staff and attracting great staff, there's got to be a good why behind you doing what you did. So 2006, you're in your garage and you brought Schopen Pest Solutions to life.
All
Why?
right. You want a tearjerker? This is a
Yes,
tearjerker.
yes,
Are you ready?
yes.
Okay. All
I
right.
love tear-jerking stories.
Okay. I was a sports broadcaster. My wife and I traveled all over the country. I used to do college football, college basketball, minor league baseball. For a short while, I was kind of a fill-in weekend talk show host on a station in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I love doing radio. Um, when you're a sports broadcaster, you don't get the holidays off, right? You work on Christmas, you work on Thanksgiving, you work on Valentine's Day and all that stuff. So I was used to working year round. When my wife was pregnant with our first son, he was breached. And so we picked I had 8 off days a year. That was 8 days where I wasn't broadcasting or working. So we picked one of our 8 off days and we were in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I told my in-laws, I said, listen, we know it's going to be on this Monday because that's one of my off days. And so my wife's going to have the C-section. So
Yeah.
my in-laws came down from Chicago and they came down for the birth of our son and they got to hold him and they got to see him and everything. They went out to dinner that night and my father-in-law had a heart attack and died that night. And it just makes you reevaluate everything in your life. I was on the road all the time. I was never home. I had to finish. I was under contract. I had to finish the year, but it was just there was no passion. No passion. We mentioned that there was just no
Yeah.
passion anymore. And so once that was over, I sat down and I prayed to God. I'm a big believer in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I prayed and I said, I just don't know where to go from here.
Yeah.
And there was one option. I could get back into pest control. I did pest control to pay my way through college. So, Julie, I'm good at two things in this whole wide world. I'm
Yeah.
good at killing a cockroach. I'm good at broadcasting a college football game. That
Yeah.
is all I'm really good for. And so my wife and I talked about it, and I got back into pest control, and there you have it. It was
You know,
just one of those things where life kind of intervened.
and there's so many interesting things about that story, but man, to have a life transforming event, I mean, a couple of them unfolding at the same time. And then that triggers you to think differently about, hey, how do we want to live the rest of our days going forward? What is it that I want to do, at least where you were in that point in time? So that's an incredible story about transformation, incredible story about embracing change, because I'm sure there's so much that you were going through mentally to make that decision to
Which and it's
something
good
you
for
knew and probably really enjoyed.
it's good for us as business owners to remember those things because when you have and this is one of the things that I felt like I did really well at Chopin Pest Solutions is I was in touch with my employees, right?
Yeah.
You get a lot of owners that they're off on their bass boat fishing, or they're gone for a month or two on vacation, and when it gets cold outside. But one of the things I really felt like I did well was I was in tune with my employees, my team members. And so I would always sit down with them for 5 or 10 minutes every day and pick somebody new and just kind of talk and see how their day's going and stuff. We would do stay interviews where we would do their yearly reviews, but then 6 months later, we would do a stay interview where I would ask them a bunch of questions about your time here at Chopin. What are your 3 year goals? What's your 3 year personal goal?
Mm,
How are things in your family going? You got to be careful. HR would always tell you, you got to be super careful what you're asking, but you can ask questions about them without delving too much into it. But what'll end up happening is a lot of times your employees want to talk. And so
yeah.
what they'll do is they'll open up to you about things you never knew. I learned one lady that was directly underneath me was going through a divorce, never knew until I sat down with her and we talked. Had another lady who was had cervical cancer.
Oh, wow.
She was battling this. I had another lady whose son was on heroin. There's so many. So yes, I had my problems before when I had to give up my broadcasting career, get back into pest control. But then it made me realize that, we all have these hidden little things, and the employees are no different, and that you have to have compassion. Once again, the passion, the compassion, the enthusiasm, and make sure your employees know that you're there, that you've got their back.
Yeah. Did you ever worry at any time about opening them up too much on a personal level and then having that take over the workplace culture? I know some companies will deal with that where it's like, oh my goodness, all they do is bring their personal problems to work. And now we're pulling it out of them and they're thinking like, oh, it's good to do this.
We called it a drama-free zone. That's what we called it. We wanted drama-free zones. And
And
everybody in
your
the company
employees
had,
were mostly men too, correct?
mm-mm.
No?
No, we were
Okay.
split down the middle. We were split right down the middle.
Down the
Yeah.
middle. All right. Women
We had
like
a few
to kill
female
those
technicians.
bugs.
Well, because once you get up to about 50 employees, I mean, I got a billing department now. I have people answering the phones. So if you want to say we were gender fluid, I think, throughout the company. We had female technicians. I had men answering phones. We really were kind of all over the place. It wasn't like, okay, she's a female, she has to answer phones. He's a guy, he has to be a technician. We really were kind of all over the place. My general manager was a woman. My sales manager was a woman. My office manager was a woman. My branch manager was a man. So we had a really nice blend.
Yeah. So you had a drama-free zone, and did you ever have to get really strict about that zone?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Probably who unfortunately, when you get to know your employees, you know who your drama queens or drama kings are going to be. And so but once every 3 or 4 months you got to pull them in and say, hey, listen, I know some things are happening in your life. If you want to talk about it, I'd rather you come talk to me privately than bring it up in front of all your coworkers, because they're trying to do their jobs, and the drama really does kind of distract and bring people down. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. And one of the things that you had said in sharing your story was that you started in pest control way back when, and now full circle back to it. And I once read studies showed that one of the earliest jobs that we take is typically what we'll circle back to later on in our life. And I don't know if you found that true with your employees or with other people in your life, but I think that's very interesting that you had that experience where you started out early in college. And I did too. I was in childcare in college. So
Oh,
now it's
there you go.
interesting that I'm doing a lot of coaching and consulting in the childcare industry. But you had that experience where you were in pest solutions and now you formed a whole company to help
I
people
think
with their
there's that
pest issues.
I think it's that familiarity, right? You go back to what you know. I
Yeah.
think that definitely can. I never thought about it that way, really. I was desperate for a job, and that really was the biggest reason. I was just I was sad, burnt out on what had happened, and I was just looking for maybe I was looking for that little cozy zone that where I
Yeah.
would feel comfortable in. Maybe,
Yeah, that's cool. Just interesting to think about, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
So, in your company, what do you think is the most effective thing that you ever did to create the culture that you wanted to have? Did you have a vision for that culture? Did you kind of let it evolve and then figure out, oh, I don't want this, so I'm going to change it up? Was it a learn as you go, or was there this vision for the culture you wanted to create? And then what was one of the big things that you did to bring that to life?
The answer would be yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
It has to evolve. You have to have an idea. You have to have some idea, but then it has to evolve, and it is mistakes. I write for a magazine. I write for a magazine, and one of the articles I've been writing for this magazine monthly for 17 years, and it always seemed like the best articles were the ones where I was messing up, where I was making mistakes. Right?
Yep.
Those were the best articles. So as far as growing that culture, I will tell you that I think it was like my 12th year in business. We were growing, we were thriving. My company grew by 25 or 30% every single year. There was never a year where we didn't grow by 25 or 30%. But I didn't like the culture. and I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't. I had a vision of what I wanted my culture to be, but I didn't know how to fix it. So what do? You go to resources that will help you. So I started getting SHRM magazine, SHRM, SHRM magazine. I started reading the book Traction. I started reading the Harvard Business Review, the condensed books. So I just started getting ideas on how I could be a better leader. And I started
Started
read
piecing the
real.
puzzle together, right? Trying to figure it all out. And
That's
that's what a
exactly
lot of
right.
leaders do in all different industries. It's not like there's this big manual that says, oh, step one, step two, step three. It's all right. It's not what I want. I want something different. Here's the vision. How do I get there? And you start looking at all the different pieces.
And so one of the things I did was I started relying on the people that I had hired around me. And so we the first thing we did, the big game-changing event, like you mentioned, was we came up with our core values for our company. What did we want? Because we're gonna, like they say in the book Traction, we're gonna hire and we're gonna fire based on our 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 core values. So we came up with 7 core values, and I'll just tell them to you really quick, because it's actually significant. Our first core value was a sense of urgency, because I work
Mhm.
with urgency. Everything I do in my life, I'm always running around like a road runner trying to get things accomplished. The second, so sense of urgency was the first one. Second one was compassion. Our third core value was honesty. Our fourth core values might be my favorite, operational integrity. I love that.
Mm.
Operational integrity. The fifth one was passion. The sixth one was enthusiasm. And then the seventh one was nimble. And if you spell those all out, it spells Chopin. So, um,
Beautiful.
so, and I didn't come up with that. This was I gave this project to my staff, and I said, I
Yes.
got a project for you guys. What are the core values? What's important to you at Chopin Pest Solutions? And they came up with it. But listen, Julie, once you have it, it can't be like, people join the Chamber of Commerce and they expect the money to start rolling in. No, you've got to become a part of the Chamber of Commerce. You got to
Right.
become an ambassador. You got to go to the ribbon cutting ceremonies. You got to go to the mixers at night. You have to become a part of the Chamber of Commerce. Well, same thing with your core values. You can't just say, okay, these are core values.
Yeah.
No, it's got to go on your business cards. It's got to go on your door tags. It's got to go on your billing statements. When the ladies in the office answer the phone, Schopen Pest
Mhm.
Solutions, help is on the way. How can I help you?
Yes. Oh,
Everything
phone
we
message.
do, right, has got to be part of our core values. When we hire people, they have to have training from me, the owner, about our core values. When we something good happens out in the field or at the office, we need to be on our phones and the WhatsApp, telling everybody how cool that Julie did this really great thing today. Way to be nimble, Julie. And it's you got to live the core values every single day. And so that's what we did really well at Chopin Pest Solutions. Was we lived by our core values.
And I love the idea of creating the values based on your last name. There was one organization I was consulting with, and I went on site to do a program. And the core values, we did a similar exercise, ended up being his wife's name. So imagine the Tammy core values, right?
Right, I like it.
But it ended up being his wife's name. It became this whole emotional event where it was just like dedicated to his wife, and each letter of her name stood for one of the values. And it was beautiful to see that in their staff. And what a lot of leaders don't know is how I don't want to say easy. It's easy. It's maybe simple, but it's hard with your mindset to accept like, oh, I could get my team involved with doing this and they'll be excited to do this. And when I'm on site, I'll often walk into a team where it's like they look like they want to like throw things at me. But once we get going, it's like 2 hours into it, they're like cheering and they're all excited. And it's really taking that leap of faith that they want to be a part of your vision. They want to be a part of the dynamic that makes up Peter Chopin, that makes up who you're becoming as an organization.
One of the speeches I give, in fact, I'll be giving it in Oregon in 2 weeks. There's this big pest conference called the Pacific Northwest Conference. It's been going on like 70 years, and it's in Portland. And I'll be going there at the end of the month to give a talk on culture. And this is it's one of the things I mentioned is that these employees, yes, money talks. It always will. If you can get an extra little something here or there, it makes a difference. But that's not what people are looking for. They're looking for the recognition. They want to hear the words good job, right?
Yes.
I think, and Julie, you might know this better than I do. I think there's a theory for every negative you give an employee, you're supposed to give like 5 or 7 positives, I think is what it
Right.
is. I live that. So someone come to my office and they knew I needed to talk to them about something. I would never start with the negative. I'd say, hey, listen, Mrs. Johnson called. Great job with Mrs. Johnson. She really loved what you're doing for
Mm,
her. Or I say, hey, are those new shoes? Those really look nice. I like those shoes. Or hey, your shirt looked nice and ironed today. I love the way you're taking care of our clients on a nice, clean. So you always start with 5, 6, 7 positive. And they say, listen, I need to talk to you about what happened to Mrs. Smith's house. And your employees, they want that affirmation that they're
yeah.
doing a, and that really does go a long way past money, past PTOs, past vacation days. It's really important.
Yeah, and I feel like, if we look at like an empty cup, it's kind of like the confidence cup, where our employees, it's like, their confidence, they're wondering, are they doing a good job? Are they, whatever, they have all those thoughts going through their mind. So when you as an employer call them into your office and right away it's negative, 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 or if you're out in the field and it's negative, 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 it's like the confidence that they do have, it's just being depleted. It's just, it's fading away. But when you start in the brilliant way that you did, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna give them something first, then they know that you are there to support them, to
You're
help them
coaching them.
grow. You're coaching them. Right, right. So that's very impactful. Yeah.
It was something I taught all my managers that we had a rule at Schopen Pest Solutions. You never ever got on a technician or an employee first thing in the morning. Let them go get their day out of the way. Then when they come back in at the end of the day, or if your CSR, your customer service reps finished up for the day, pull them in and talk to them at the end of the day. Okay.
Yes.
Then you're not ruining their whole day. Plus, they can go home and kind of mull over what you said in their brains. And I want them focused on the job when they're at the job. They can go home, kind of think about what we said and see if it resonates with them. But I hated that when when I was in minor league baseball and my general manager, if he called me into the office or something, and if he did it first thing in the morning, it just ruined your whole day. So I always knew that that's not what I wanted to do.
There's certain things you want to procrastinate, and the criticism is definitely one of them, right?
Yeah, clearly, if a technician's stealing from somebody's house, you want to bring them in right away and talk to them.
Right. If
But
somebody's
if it's a
getting
minor
injured,
thing,
crisis situations, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
if someone maybe they didn't shower that day and couple customers complain, who knows what, but something that wasn't life threatening, let it go to the end of the day. Yep.
Yeah, just wait it out. And for all of you who are listening, you know why I have stalked this man to get him on here as our first guest for leading workplace happiness. We're not done yet. I hope you have a little bit of time to stick around and I can ask you some more questions. But let's tell our listeners where they could get in touch with you in case anybody's interested in taking advantage of your coaching or consulting or
Well,
speaking.
that's very kind of you. I appreciate it. They can reach me via email at. I started a new company once I sold my other companies called RV There Yet Pest Consulting. But I can consult for any service industry. But it's RV There Yet Pest at
Love it.
gmail.com. And the whole idea was my wife and I want to hop in the RV. We have a beautiful RV. We want to hop in the RV and travel to different companies and help them. For example,
Mm,
at the end of this month, I'll be going to, after Portland, I'll be going to Oklahoma City in the RV, and I'll be working with a team of pest control guys down there from my RV. So that was kind
nice.
of where we came to the genesis of this RV There Yet Pest at gmail.com as the best way to get a hold of me. Or Facebook. I love talking to people on Facebook.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, good. Yeah, and I encourage everybody, or if you have a need, reach out to Peter. And if you hear screaming, that's my cat in the background. People tell me they can't hear it, but she's like, sometimes it's like noontime, and she's like, "Where is my lunch? You didn't put it down before you got on your interview." So, Peter, I know there's something that you created at your company. I think it's called Shopies.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So tell us about Shopies, because it doesn't sound like
Once
everybody's got Shopies.
once again, we did an end of the year awards banquet for the employees. Really give some recognition to people. And about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, one of my managers, because I used to always give out a employee of the year, rookie of the year, office staff person of the year, salesperson of the year. Then I would pick my employee of the year. So the staff members would all pick their employee of the year. A lot of times popularity contest. So I would pick the MVP. Okay, the person I felt like maybe for me in particular really helped me grow the company that year. So those
Mm.
are the awards we hand out. And so one year at Christmas, I was handing out the awards, and one of my branch managers came up to me and said, "I love the showpiece." I thought, that is so clever. I'm going to steal that. So we stole it. And I always used to give him, his name's Chris Bauman. I used to always give Chris credit for that. And my last year before I sold the company, we had just an extravagant thing. We had it at a country club. I had a jazz band come play for us from the local high school. I gave them a $500 donation, and the jazz band from the high school came over and played for us during the evening. Um, I was in a tuxedo. We had the speakers, the microphones, and we had a 5-course dinner for all the employees, as well as one loved one, so they could bring a friend, a guest. And so we had about 100 people in the room, and everybody was dressed up in their most beautiful gowns and suits, and it was an incredible evening. And so a big thing with me now as I'm getting older is leadership is a big thing for me. So I gave a speech that night on leadership and how much I appreciated everybody what they did for us during the course of the year. And oh, but people were crying, and it was very emotional evening. But it was the showpiece is going to be one of my all-time favorite things I've ever done. Yep.
That's pretty cool. I love that. As you're talking about this, I'm just getting flashes of images going through my mind. So that's pretty cool. I remember one time being at a speaking event, and Ken Cragen, who was a promoter for Around the World, I worked with him for a period of time.
Okay.
Promotionalist. He recently passed away, I think, within the past few years. But one of the things that he did when he was speaking is that all of a sudden, I think it was a high school marching band, came like into the conference room and just like marched its way across. And we're all like, what the heck just happened? But it was just brilliant. And it just made it such a memorable experience. So I'm sure that you created that for your team as well, probably over and over and over again.
It was a blast. It was really, like I said, one of the best things we ever did at Schopen. It was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. One of the reasons I launched this podcast was the word happiness. And a lot of times we're looking to create a team that is happy working together. But we have leaders who are giving everything they got to the people who work for them. And sometimes so much so that they're not even paying themselves, but it's like everything that they've got goes to their team. But what we really want to do is help leaders find happiness in their role of leading their team. So, what has been the biggest thing for you that has empowered you or enabled you to find your own happiness, to keep your footing while you're really creating this massive success with your business?
As your company grows and it's making more and more money, money is money is like oil. It's gonna lubricate the company. It really does. So having more and more money every year, I was able to say yes to more and more things. Yes to if one of my employees say, Pete, I got this idea for a product I want to try, I say yes. Or hey, Pete, I really prefer standing at my desk versus sitting down. Can you invest in getting me one of those lift up tables and stuff like that? Um, um, we started switching to vans. Vans are much cleaner and neater because you can put shelves inside the vans. It costs a lot of money, but yes, I had the money to do it. So, money allowed us to do a lot of things that I couldn't do early on. I could give more PTOs. I could give more vacation days. I could give more days off for the holidays. I hate to say it, but money is important in running a company, and that was the big thing for me. It was I was able to allow me to say the word yes more often.
Mm. So, in that process of saying yes to everybody else, where did you say yes to yourself?
I if
And I
I'm
know a
being
lot
very
of it's probably in your faith.
it is. I paid myself a nice salary. I did. I didn't hold back there. My wife and I love our RV. I got an RV during COVID, and we travel around the country during COVID, and we still do. It's a wonderful thing. Um, but yeah, I definitely took care of myself. I think if you're owner, I think so many owners of the companies put themselves last,
Mhm.
and I did. I was a team member. I was a member of the team, and if I'm going to be a leader, truly a leader, not a manager, but a leader of the company, then my employees need to see me succeeding. If I'm not succeeding, then what's the point?
Right, right.
Right. And so thank you for throwing my faith in there. Yes, faith's a big thing. I always pray and God, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And I'm always asking for help with that. But no, I think as owners of businesses, they worry sometimes about what they should be paid, um, compensated. Where what I did is I gave myself a salary. I was part of the budget. I was part of the salary. I didn't wait till the end of the year to pay myself. And if I had enough money to buy things, then I'd buy an RV if that's what I had. So your employees really need to see a successful business person in order for them to kind of believe that you're leading them down the right path.
So, any rituals that you developed for yourself, whether it was a bedtime ritual, a wake up ritual, a mindset shifting, like I recall the scene in The Founder, the movie The Founder. I'm always making movie analogies, but in The Founder, where he's just like looking at himself in the mirror and he's repeating his affirmations of what he wanted to do. So, is there anything that you did? And I know for me, a lot of times it's buying flowers for myself, it's getting massages, it's whatever it might be, so that there is that component of really treating myself good while I'm creating my business, while I'm establishing my vision.
Um,
And I
my
know I
business
think a man's perspective is going to be interesting on this one.
my business was my passion. Up until 2 years ago, I still came in on Saturdays. I mean, I was there Monday through Saturday with all my employees. My employees, they were my hobby, they were my passion, and I think that's why things went so well there. Um, I got up every day. I wake up still to this day. I'm semi-retired now. I still wake up every day at 4:20
Ooh,
every single day. I'm at the health club between 5 and 5:30 every single day. Um, I read my Bible, every morning. I read a couple chapters of my Bible in the morning. I read a couple more chapters at night before I go to bed. I pray, but in between, it was work, and you hear people all the time say, "Work." You shouldn't just work all the time. What's the old expression? If you're doing what you love, it's not work.
it doesn't. Yeah, it's not work. That's true.
I loved what I was doing. I loved being an exterminator, number one. I loved helping people. I loved going to someone's house and they had a bald-faced hornet nest that was ruining a backyard party, and I got rid of the hornet's nest for them. They could enjoy their party again. I had a little old lady one time in Huntley, Illinois. It was Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve, and I always had my phone on, 24 hours a day. Had my phone on. And this woman called up Christmas Eve. I had 30 people in my house for Christmas Eve, and she's crying. She goes, I can't believe you answered your phone. She goes, I've called all these large companies and no one's answered the phone. I can't believe you answered your phone on Christmas Eve. And I go, well, tell me what's going on. She goes, I'm sitting on my kitchen table because there's a mouse in my kitchen. She goes, I'm supposed to be going to a family function. I'm supposed to pick up my mom. I can't do either. And she's crying. Tell me, she's crying. So I turn to my wife and I go, honey, I gotta go. And that night I drove. You can look her up on YouTube. Her name's Pat Mendrick, Mendrick, Pat Mendrick. She's on YouTube where she gave a testimonial for my company. She tells the story of how Pete Schopen came on Christmas Eve and helped her off her table, got rid of her mice, and she's been a customer for 17 years.
Wow.
So yes, 4:20 in the morning I wake up, go to the health club, read my Bible, but then I'm at work. And I really did.
Is there one important mindset shift that you have made in your journey of building a successful company? And maybe it's when you get negative reviews online. Maybe it's when other people tell you that your vision's not the right vision. Because I know oftentimes we're persuaded by what other people are saying or by what they're thinking. So is there something that stands out, whether it's one of the examples that I just gave or something that really sticks out? Like, yeah, this is a time in my growth where I really had to shift my mindset so that we could stay in the game and we could keep pursuing the passion and become this fantastic company.
I think it's when I became a leader versus a manager. when you're managing, you're kind of micromanaging. You're bossing everybody around. You, hey, do this, do this, this. But when you're a leader, now you're kind of like, what do you like? Hey, Julie, what do you think about this? Right? Or, hey, Heather, what do you think would be a good way for us to accomplish this? Okay. And then it was my job to make sure it got done. Right. So I think when I stopped being a manager, became more of a leader, instead of right with the old, instead of pushing my people, now I'm pulling my people, right? I'm
Mm,
bringing them with me. I think once I changed that mindset, that our company exploded. We were happy. People, they had input. It became, there's a book called The Great Game of Business. I think that's what it's called, Great Game of Business. It is a phenomenal book. And it
mm,
talks about making your business more of like a game, um, being involved with it, being involved with your company, seeing it grow, getting everyone else involved with it, showing them the numbers. Don't hide the numbers, show your employees the numbers. But I think
yes.
that's a big seismic change in our company was when I stopped being a manager and started becoming a leader. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And when you look through, the history of where you started in 2006 to now, was there any, I don't know, one person that really influenced you that you feel like this is the person that I've modeled a lot of things after? And it could be somebody, famous, it could be whoever it might be for you.
I don't think there's any one person. Uh, People like Elon Musk, he's the guy's a genius and a hard worker like I was, would be somebody that would be the forefront. Uh, but I don't think there's any one person. It was, I was part of a couple of different peer groups and just listening to my peers and talk with them about things. I think it's really important to have peers in an industry that you can lean on and ask questions of. I've tried to be that person now. Once again, my magazine article that I write, it's called Startup Stories, and I
Mm,
write about young companies that are growing. And what I do is I mentor them for a year. I mentor them for free for a year, and I put their story into the magazine
mm,
because I had people like that for me, that were there to help me grow my company. My dad was a giant influence on me and professionalism. He did that. And there's other people within my little industry, the pest control industry, that once again, we're kind of there to give me hints, let me bounce ideas off them and stuff. So nobody famous that I can think of really off my head. But my father would have been a big influence on me.
all right, I've got a question for you, and this one might be tough,
Okay.
but I think you can handle it.
Okay, I'll try.
All right. If I were to pull your employees aside and I would say, what are 5 words that describes Peter as your leader? What words would they give to me?
That's actually easy. It would be urgency. It'd be urgency. Um, they specifically put urgency in our core values because they all know that's how I live my life. Another one that they used to tease me on was consistency. And I say tease because they would sit there, they would know that I would be unflappable. If we're doing it this way, this is how we're going to do it. Until someone proves to me that there's a better way. So we were very consistent in everything we did. If you're 5 minutes early to a meeting, you're 5 minutes late in my world. You need to be there early, on time. So everything about me is consistent. I'm compassionate. Um, you know, I can't tell you how much money I've given to people. Just trying to help people out. If I see a homeless person, if somebody at my company was struggling with paying the bills, I know how much they're making. I would give them some money. I've never asked for money back. So compassionate. The Pat Hendrick, I told you a story about her going to her house on Christmas Eve. So I
Mm,
think that I'm a very compassionate person. I'm a very loyal person. You know, um, all the people in my company, the day I sold my business, I started taking all my former employees out for lunch and I gave them all giant bonuses from the sale of my company. I started giving them because as a thank you to them for helping me, grow this. So I'm a very loyal person.
mm,
Fifth one, maybe energy. energy. I'm just, I've never drank a cup of coffee in my life. I hit the ground running every day, and I go to bed late. God's made me a, a different person. I feel like I've got a lot of energy all the time. So I think those would be my 5 words if you pulled my
If I
employees
pulled
to the.
them aside. That's great to know. And the big question I know many leaders have is, all right, this is great. You've got your core values, but what do you do on the days when you're not at work? When you're not at the office? How do you keep the vision alive? And this is something I love to teach. So I'm really curious as to how you do it and what you have found to work the best when you're not there. How do you keep them on board and excited about that vision so that you can take a day off without worry? And you know that your team is going to be really putting those core values to work and expanding your vision.
Well, because there's accountability. There's now the employees start having accountability for each other, right? Pete Schopen has set the expectations. I've set the expectations. Now your leaders within the company, now it's up to them to make sure that those expectations are met. There's accountability in your company. And that's why standard operating procedures are very important in your company, right? You got to have those SOPs in place. Because you got to, there's a certain way to do the job, but then there's a certain way to behave at the job, to behave while you're at work. And so the SOPs help you to set the tone for how you're doing the jobs, but then your employees are holding each other accountable once they buy into that vision. So it was never a problem, ever a problem.
So expectation and SOPs.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And I know we're pushing our time here. I want to thank you so much for being here with me. But man, I could sit here and talk to you for a couple of days because there's so much information. But one last question, if it's okay, is if
Sure.
other business owners were to peer in, they had a looking glass into your business, your operation, what is one thing that they would see that might be totally different from anything that they ever thought to do, where they'd be like, really, you're doing that and that's working for you? Is there anything like that that comes to mind?
Well,
The
one of the
Schopen
things,
way, perhaps.
yeah, one of the things we had a specific thing that we had some fun with. I don't know that this is completely original, but it was something fun that we did. Um, we had a Queen of Hearts board. And what we do is we kept very strict KPIs, key performance indicators, very strict KPIs. So we would have competitions within the sales team, within the office staff, and within the technicians, and we would gauge their KPIs, their key performance indicators. So we kept stats. How many phone calls did Beth answer? How many sales did Frank make? How many customers did Steve visit this month? So there's KPIs that we kept track of, and we gave each KPI a value. If you turned a new customer into a quarterly customer, you got 5 points, right? You came into work every day during the month, you got 2 points for every day you came into work. So there's different things we use. So at the end of the month, we'd have end of the month meetings, which
Mm,
is something very unique for Schopen. Not a lot of companies do this, but we would have end of the month meetings where I would have breakfast. We'd have 4 hours of meetings to go over SOPs, leadership, entomology, um, uh, birthdays, anniversaries, team building exercises. There was a lot we'd cram into 4 hours. And then we'd have lunch. Well, part of the 4 hours was we would announce our winners, guys, for that Hearts board. And they go up to the Queen of Hearts board and they would get to pick a card off. And I would give $100 out of my own pocket to the Queen of Hearts board. So if they pulled the Queen of Hearts off the first month, they got $100. If no
nice.
one pulled the Queen of Hearts, it would roll over to the second month. So that'd be 200 and 300. We had one guy rolled over 7 times and he got $700 and he
Wow.
threw the money up into the air, and we took pictures of it and stuff like that. It was just really a lot of fun. So I think our end of the month meetings, keeping everybody focused on the same page is really important. But I think the Queen of Hearts board that we did was a very unique way to build excitement within the company. Like who's going to win that money, this month. So
That's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, and I think leadership is all about doing things differently and totally stepping, we know the saying, right? That you've got to do things that make you feel uncomfortable to really grow and to expand. And from what I've seen from you, from your post on Facebook, it's fun for you, but you're also taking steps out of your comfort zone continuously.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're stepping away from your company and stepping into coaching and consulting and the RV life has also brought you to a whole new level of uncomfort in some ways.
It is because you have to I got a lot of people relying on me now. I mean, I did before, but now I have 18 companies who are clients right now. 18 companies. So it's not 18 people. I have 18 companies.
Companies.
They all have employees. And so the pressure is there that I want to do the best job possible for them so that they can grow their businesses and give their employees nice things, right? So yeah, I'm definitely not I'm semi-retired, but I'm definitely not taking it easy. I'm still putting myself out there and holding myself accountable to these people.
Beautiful. Is there anything that you would like to say in closing that we haven't yet discussed?
No, you did a great job. Good first interview. This was
Oh,
awesome.
thank
I
you.
think you've done a fantastic job. I hope you do this frequently. I hope.
Yes, yes, we're going to be getting a lot of episodes of Leading Workplace Happiness out there. And yeah, and I'll do an official little wrap up here of this. And then if you want, after I stop the recording, if there's any questions you have or anything you want to say, we could chat a little bit. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This has been an incredible interview, and now hopefully you know why I've stalked this man. And I was impressed from your first post on Facebook going, I was rooting for you. I was like, yes, 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 finally somebody who gets it. So it makes perfect sense to me that after you sold your company, that now you've moved and transitioned into coaching and consulting and really changing many people's lives across the world with the work that you do. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. Good luck.
You're welcome. And let's give everybody your contact information one last time where they could get in
You
touch with
bet.
you.
People can call me. Once again, my phone's still on my hip all the time. They can call me at 847 529 2847. That's 847 529 bugs, BUGS. Okay. So
Creative.
they can call me there. Or they can email me at rvthereyetpest@gmail.com. Or like me on Facebook. Just go to Pete Schopen. The last name spelled SCH Open, Schopen. They can just look me up and just send me a friend link. I'll always respond.
They could be one of your stalkers as well.
Yes, I got that restraining order right here. I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah, well, I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried. It's been a pleasure and thank you so much everybody for tuning in to our first episode of Leading Workplace Happiness. We plan on bringing you a lot more. And please feel free to visit me, juliebartkus.com, and you can also find me on Facebook as well. And we'll also have some show notes below the recording of this video that you'll be able to tune into. So thank you everyone, and I will see you next time.